Welcome, everybody, to the Patrick Carr Show. We have got ourselves a very packed Tuesday right here for you with a lot of different stuff that we're going to want to get to. Everything that we have here. We got stuff from politics all the way to podcast controversies that are going on. We're going to be talking about midlife crisis data that's coming in. There is so much that we need to get to today. So, first of all, Anthony's behind over here. He'll make his comments every now and then, which is always a great thing. We appreciate it, Anthony. Finding some great stuff that has been going on. We're going to start off with a story of the day. Story of the day is Eric Swalwell, a Democratic congressman and was the Democratic candidate for governor of California. He has both resigned from Congress effective yesterday and suspended his campaign for governor. Now, if you've been online or you follow politics, this is no big surprise. I remember the last time I saw Eric Swalwell in the news, he was getting embarrassed by Ben Shapiro on a cross-examination. I remember Ben just absolutely embarrassed the guy. But in this case right here, he's making the news for all the wrong reasons. He has allegations now of sexual misconduct charges and sexual assault charges against him by former staffers. Anthony, this is not just one person that is coming forward. We have had multiple people that have come forward and said, basically, this guy is not a good person. All right. And so I really want to kind of break down, first of all, this case, because for a lot of people, you're hearing a lot of the headlines, and I think there might be some confusion of exactly what has happened here. Okay. So first of all, we have multiple women that have come forward. You maybe saw an interview, I think it was with 60 Minutes that we brought up last night, where you had 3 women that came forward who at some point were associated with him as a former junior staffer. They worked on his campaign at some level, and they are saying that bad things happened, sexual misconduct happened while they were there. And then there's one case in particular that is speaking to sexual assault. So I think it's very important in a show like this when we have things that are very emotionally charging for some people and some things that we don't understand. I can't put myself into their situation, and I can't put myself into this Swalwell guy's situation. I was not there for any of this. So it's very important that we speak from facts, and then we give an opinion based on the facts that we represent here. And so I first want to start by saying there are two camps here. You have one camp of people who is one group of women that is alleging sexual misconduct. This is a group that is saying that he sent lewd pictures. He said things to them that was inappropriate and awful. Okay, that's one group. And there is bad stuff there. And I agree there is bad stuff there. You have a secondary group or a secondary woman, in my opinion, is where I want to focus the attention on because it's a much more deeper issue that we have here. And this deeper issue is the alleged sexual assault case. This is not just misconduct. Others are claiming, they said in the first group, that maybe some pictures were sent from Snapchat or conversations became inappropriate. But they are not saying that anything happened, from what I could gather in our research, that was forced upon them or not consensual. So I think we get that right there out of the way. The second thing you have to understand is that this guy has been married since 2016. And so the acts that we're talking about right here, they are while he is married, and thus, regardless of anything, the guy doesn't seem like a good dude. All right. He has made a lot of mistakes, and that is given this even without the assault and misconduct charges and all this stuff that we have right here. So he resigned from Congress yesterday. He has denied many of the accusations and says they are false, but he has acknowledged that mistakes in judgment were made. And as I said, one of the accusations involves a former staffer who claimed he was assaulted her while she was intoxicated and unable to consent. Let's focus on that case, and I want viewers to be able to make their decision based on the facts that we were able to hear from her own testimony, as well as from the others that we watched the interviews with. That's what we have to go by right now. And I want people to be able to make their own determinations at that point based on the facts, Anthony. So let's walk through a timeline that we put together here based on the interviews. As I said, he's been married since 2016. In 2019, a 21-year-old staffer says that she was driving him to an event. He pulled over and asked her to perform, I don't want to say this wrong. I asked her to do something to him inside of the car, okay? She does, and then says she stopped and said, quote, "This feels really uncomfortable. Anyone could see us right now," end quote. He replies, quote, "You're right. It's probably not good for a congressman to be caught with his pants down," end quote. She went along and said, okay, that ends the situation as she describes it there. She goes on in the same interview to say that she sent him nude photos after this incident. Then in 2019, the same year, she drank too much at an event where he was present with her and other people, and she takes an Uber back to his hotel and claims that they slept together and that she did not remember anything from that time. Not a good event, not good for her. She believes that it stands out in her mind that she remembers none of the event, but remembers waking up feeling though she'd had sex. Then in 2024, so they were looking at 5 years later, she is no longer working for the congressman. She says that following an event, she asked him to meet her for a drink. She does not work with him at this time. She says she felt, quote, more established and had a partner at that time and felt she could, quote, strictly professional. She could, quote, have strictly a professional relationship with the person, end quote. They went from one bar to another bar, according to her, and she claims that she blacked out and recalls him on top of her and claims that she said no and that he was forceful in doing what he did to her. After the incident, she calls her mom, and she did send texts which have been screenshotted to a friend, and she claims in those texts that she was assaulted. She also went to a doctor at that time, and that doctor claimed that she was, quote, a survivor. So in this ends the incident as we're able to find it now. This goes on for the 2024. Swalwell continues in Congress and then becomes a front runner in the Democratic Party for the gubernatorial race of California. And thus, what happens here is she comes forward and she elects at that time to.
Sorry, I couldn't tell if you were
What's up?
recording or not.
I am. What's going on?
I would just want to see if you'd be able to forward me your Fathom link for the KidSAP meeting, because my recording didn't record all the way, and I just want to get that map portion of it.
Yeah, no problem. So we do this live, everybody. So there we go. So now we're doing. We got some business stuff to attend to here. I got you. 1 second. Let me make sure I do it because you know me. I'll probably forget if you walk out of here. Even 1 second. For the KidSAP meeting from last week.
Yes.
I got you. Home shield. Okay, there we go. I got this. There's 2 of them. You want me to send you both?
Yes, please.
All right, I got you. You want to be a part of the live broadcast?
No, thank you.
We are now. All right, here we go. I just want to copy that link right there. I'm going to send it to you in Slack here, all right?
Okay, perfect.
1 sec. I just want to make sure I get them both to you. There's that. There's one. And then, all right. 81 minutes. That was a long meeting.
Yeah.
That was a long one. Share, copy link. And I'll put them both in the Slack for you.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank
You got it? Of course. And now back to the live. All right. Work never stops. Can close that. So work never stops here. Just so everyone does know, we really do it live. So that's where the story ends until we have these allegations that come forward recently. To give a timeline on that right there, just so we're all clear on what the timeline looks like. Several women, including the former staffer, accused him of sexual assault or sexual misconduct and assault. The allegations became public on April the 10th. Within days, pressure from both political parties mounted for him to step down. On April 13th, yesterday, he announced he's going to resign from Congress. He says that no misconduct happened, no sexual assaults happened. He had some bad judgment that he claims, obviously being married. He's got probably terrible things to answer to at home, among other things that are going on in that, with this individual. I think it's very important when we touch this story to understand the facts of the case here, Anthony, and to also not rush to judgment on either side. When we don't know the facts, we don't rush to judgment. We need to wait for more facts to present themselves. I will say that there's a lot of time here between 2019, the first incident, 2024, now we're in 2026, that this stuff is coming forward. This is the case and the part of the case that I believe people should be most focused on. The sexual misconduct portion that other people are saying, in my opinion, does not hold weight to something like this. An assault like this, a sexual assault, there is no place for it. If the allegation is true, he should pay with more than just his being a congressman or more than just his gubernatorial race. He should pay with prison time, all right? I believe there are a few things in the account that any person with common sense would look at and go, there are some really differing sides. On one, you have a doctor who physically examined her. You have screenshots of text messages. Somebody on the other side, an attorney for someone like that, and for Swalwell, is going to say that this individual had a consensual relationship with him, and that perhaps is motivated by other things right now to bring these charges forward at this time. We don't know the truth. We weren't there. But I want to see evidence. And right now, I have to admit, I was very skeptical about the evidence when we first started researching this morning. But in seeing the text message, the screenshot text messages, and in seeing that the individual went to a doctor who claimed she was, quote, a survivor, I do have to admit that that evidence alone right there does say to me that something happened here. I don't know what. I wasn't there. But to dismiss it right now, I think would be wrong as well. This is why we have the court system, right? She's going to press charges and move forward with that. Now we're going to be able to see the evidence, as the court's going to be able to. And if she was taken advantage of, then all we can hope is that justice is served in this case. I do believe it's right for this individual to step down from their position. The power that the person used, in my opinion, was misconduct. And regardless of anything, I think it's very clear that some really terrible things were probably happening. And I think that it's the right thing for this person to step down from their position. I feel terribly for the family. I am sure that there's an immense amount of pain going on there for her, for the family that has to deal with this on both sides. His family, the staffer's family. There's a lot of things that are going to have to be dealt with here. And from what I can gather and are looking at this morning, Anthony, there are more people that are coming forward with allegations than just her. We saw 3 of them in an interview last night, I believe, with 60 Minutes. It looked like that, or like a Dateline type of deal. If that continues, there's going to be a pattern here that develops, in my opinion. And so I want to see how this develops. I want our show to follow it, because I want to also be a show and an individual that does not jump to conclusions without facts. One person is denying something right now. Another person is making accusations. When I see that right there, we need more facts in order to make an inference about the character of this person before I can go either way. And I shouldn't say the character. I think we can make an inference about the character right now. That's clear. The character we can make an inference about. The legality, you can't make an inference about without knowing the facts of the case. That will play out in the court of law, and we'll follow that to understand more about what happened. All you hope for is that justice is served to the right person. and that the truth comes out, and that person has their opportunity in their day in court to make things right and to have justice in their own life. That is truly something I believe needs to happen here. Very high profile case. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Swalwell was one of the Democratic leaders that there was for governor of California. And assuming someone like Newsom moves on, this was a real opportunity for this guy to step in. He's young. I think we said he's 46?
46, yeah.
In politics, the guy's a baby. All right. So he's got another 30 years in politics that were in front of him. So he was young. He was an up and comer. And I think that this right here probably is going to be something that we're going to talk about again, because I think it's going to speak to a lot of other issues, not just sexual assault, but the sexual misconduct and misuse of power, I believe, is another thing that this is going to speak to as well. This is a real thing, and it should be looked at from all sides. I think there's arguments to be made that people do on both sides between, is this person using their power to gain something? Does this person like the fact that they have power and there's a consensual relationship? What happens if the relationship falls apart? Things like this, in my opinion, I'm not there for. But it's worth a discussion as these facts continue to come out about where we fall on this, because if it is true what she says, then I hope the guy gets some time in jail. That's for darn sure. Not just loses a congressional position. Anything else you got on this one, Anthony?
No, yeah, I totally agree. And everything's just changing every day. Something new, things are coming forward and stuff. So definitely interesting to keep seeing, and definitely want to keep an eye on and see what's coming out.
Yeah, it's all over the news right now. I mean, you go through here and there's just news articles all the time. Every hour it seems like coming out. And by the way, I'm not picking on the Democrats here. I could care less Democrat, Republican. There is a Republican case that's very similar right now. A Republican, Tony Gonzalez, I believe, out of Texas. And the only reason I'm covering this one as opposed to that one is our research showed that one was sexual misconduct. Some things that were not appropriate, okay, but not against the law. So I wanted to focus on this case because these were the things that were against the law. And also because we only have a limited time and we can only research so much, and we want to get to other things when we're on the show here. So very interesting case here that we want to start it off with. Keep your eye on this one, who comes forward, and be able to separate. People have got to understand the facts of this. You have one camp over here and you have one camp over here. One person is making these accusations and a number of people are making these right now. That could change in an hour from right now. But I think it's very important to keep these separate as we get the facts of this case straight. Yep. So let's move on to our next story. It's going to be tough after that. It's kind of all, that takes a lot out of you. That is such a deep story right there. We've got another couple we're going to go into here, but I want to jump on this one. I saw a story about bringing Laguna Beach back. All right. The show, there was a hit show, I believe in the early, 2000s, I want to say is what it was. And we were talking yesterday about nostalgia. And I know we're switching gears right here, and we often do. It's such a serious topic to start with. But, I'm looking at this story come across this morning, and I was very surprised at it. I was like, man, how ironic is that we're talking about the power of nostalgia yesterday and how important it is. And then this story comes across. There are a lot of other TV shows that are looking for maybe a comeback, including Frasier, that 70s show, which is reborn to that 90s show, reality reunions like Jersey Shore and Real World Hollywood. And then, if you want to look broader to that and you look at movies over the last 3 to 5 years, we've had stuff like Ghostbusters and Top Gun making a comeback right now, Indiana Jones. And of course, how many Jurassic Parks have we had as people begin to do that?
Yeah, like, what was it, a month ago, they just released a new Malcolm in the Middle spinoff.
There we go. And I think that this speaks to, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the show, but I do think it speaks to the age group between, let's say, really 35 and 55. And I think that these are people that maybe they have some disposable income, but they're longing for the good old days. One of the best quotes I've ever heard, the one from The Office.
Yeah.
I can't how exactly it goes, but I wish you.
Oh, you didn't know you were in the good old days
Till they're gone. I wish I knew. I always switched it up to, I wish I knew I was in the good old days when I was in them.
I think that's it.
Right. Or like before they're gone. And I think that a lot of people feel that way. And I think that Hollywood and culture is starving for that right now. I call it the Clinton effect, like Bill Clinton being in office, the 90s with that right there. People, I think, look fondly back at that time as being the perfect merger of good technology, but not too much technology. The internet is coming out. Things are changing, but we don't have stuff where we feel so connected that we feel disconnected from other people. It was like this marriage of stuff that people had in the 90s that I believe they look back on very fondly. So let's see here. We have reunion tours that are going on with bands in the 90s and 2000s. We've seen that. We talked about the Backstreet Boys and others that have gotten together. But I want to say some of these people, McDonald's doing a great job of capitalizing on nostalgia with things like the Legos and things like that. They brought back classic items, retro packaging, old mascots. Nike done a very good job of this. They're re-releasing sneakers from the 80s and the 90s, and they're doing a great job of capitalizing on that 35-year-old who has a little bit of disposable income in order to invest in nostalgia. But I think that the bigger thing that we took away from this as I looked at the summary was someone like me. I think a lot of people I'm 39 years old, and in some way, I tend to be chasing my youth. All right. And I think that some people like to feel that way. And they're chasing meaning. They're chasing what it was to feel youthful. And I think that right now, everything feels so expensive. Everything feels out of reach. And I think people want something similar. They want something familiar to them that makes them feel like it's home, right? That feeling of stuff right there. And they're chasing it because right now nostalgia just is a memory. But I think that there are a lot of companies out there that are using it very well as a strategy to gain new customers. And if done properly, people are loving this right now. I mean, they want to feel like it was in the early 2000s. Now, yes, given 9/11 had just happened, I'm talking about society in general. We are more disconnected right now than we have ever been before. Social media is not social. Nobody's using it for that. Everyone is using it for an opportunity to one-up somebody else, to get their next dopamine hit. And in the meantime, we've lost all connection with one another that's meaningful. And these nostalgic feelings that companies put together or content you create is able to bring is something that I think people are starving for. And I think the year to come as AI slop becomes something that we see on television and every time we open our phone, I believe that people are starving for a real connection in somebody who's not perfect. Not an AI generated image, but rather somebody that's got a few blemishes. And Lord, I hope so, because my face is red and blotched half the time that I do this. Thank God you take some of that away in the post-production. But I think this is a trend that is not going to stop. We're going to see a reversion to old brands and to a way of thinking that as AI becomes more prevalent, I don't see how this doesn't happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
We named off a number of brands yesterday as well. And I think there are a lot of brands that if they go in on nostalgia, wow, what an opportunity they have.
Yeah.
I think about like Oreos, Animal Crackers, okay? Like brands that are like childhood staples right now that I believe are like the thing that people can go for, right?
Yeah.
And then if they launch and they market themselves right, people are going to go for it. On a side note, Anthony, have you ever tried to buy Oreos lately?
No.
Don't try to buy Oreos. There's far too many selections of Oreos. One of the worst things about going to buy Oreos, there's like a mint flavored one. There's like a double stuffed one. There's like a chocolate and vanilla one. There's like the thin ones now that I guess are supposed to be like Thin Mints. I was literally sitting there going, Where can I just find regular Oreos that I open up and I can get? No regular Oreo. I mean, it was just double. You can't find anything that's just a regular Oreo in the line where I don't know, three high, like this wide of Oreos and not one regular one that I could find.
This will be Anthony's hot take. I like the thin Oreos better than the regular Oreos.
You like oh my God.
I don't know, like the crispy feeling of the thin ones.
Oh my God.
I don't know, it's different.
Oh my God. The thin Oreo.
Right there.
Man. I mean, I think they were trying to be like Girl Scout cookies, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like a Thin Mint or whatever else it was. But I was sitting there. I'm like, it's like, where is just the regular Oreos? Okay. It's like when you go buy like a bag of chips now, if you just want some salt and vinegar chips, there's like so many different flavors that you have to like look at them to make sure you don't buy the wrong one, because there's like 10 different that all look the exact same. I was looking for Cape Cod chips. There's like Cape Cod ones. There's salt and vinegar, salt and pepper, vinegar. And I'm like, they all look the same. Better make sure I grab the right one.
And it's like a reduced fat one, but they look the same.
Right. Listen, I'm not going to buy reduced fat chips. All right. If I'm going on chips, I'm going all in on chips. There's no reason to be going on that level right there. Oreos, man. You can't find the right ones. All right, let's talk to our next story right here, which is going to be interesting since this is what we're doing. The numbers on this are incredible. All right, folks, we're looking at a new study right now, and we're talking about podcasts replacing traditional media. The numbers show the shift. People are watching a major media transition happen before them right now. We know that people are watching less cable television, but how people are consuming podcasts is even changing now. And it's why we're doing what we're doing here today, okay? So listen up, people. People are moving away from traditional television news and towards podcast and YouTube shows. Not slowly, very fast. So taking a look at the numbers. Major cable news networks like Fox News average about 2.5 million viewers nightly for their flagship programs. Broadcast news shows on networks like ABC, CBS, and NBC typically land a similar range, usually between 2 and 4 million, probably about 2.5 on your average night. So that's if you're going to watch one of the big broadcast networks. Now let's talk about digital shows. I just want to take one that I watch, PBD, Patrick Bet-David, okay? Hundreds of thousands of views every single day. And he is just one show of hundreds, if not thousands of news shows. We talk about news here that get views online. So you're talking about hundreds of thousands, millions of views that individual is getting every week, and then continuous on-demand consumption, meaning that they are not just doing this one time. People are going back and watching the episode when they want. When the ABC, you sit down at 8 o'clock, and now they'll put it on YouTube and stuff. But primarily, these podcasts are being able to be consumed at different times throughout the day, so that people can just join when they want to. Join live, don't join live. You can get it when you want. So the other thing, single episodes can keep going for months, if not years. This means influence accumulates over time instead of disappearing after one broadcast, okay? So I want to take a look at this, all right? People would think that, given that fact, Anthony, that podcasts are on the rise and that more people are doing podcasts. But the truth is less and less and less people are doing podcasts now more than ever before. During the pandemic, podcast creation exploded, and the market is now sort of stabilizing. Here's what we show. About 4.5 million podcasts exist globally, and about 10 to 15% are actually active that are out there. And many creators started their show, they quit because it's hard. If you've never done a podcast before, trying to keep it going, we've done the Patrick Carr Show on and off for a number of years. If you've never tried it, boy, is it very difficult to do. We come up with ideas here. We try to talk live to be able to bring it to people, but it is extremely difficult to keep going all the time because there's so many other things that get in the way. So consistency becomes important, all right? The other thing that is changing right now is how people are consuming their podcast. Less and less people are consuming it strictly by audio and moving over to video. So you're seeing a big boom right now in how people are consuming on YouTube. That same podcast that was only for, let's say, a Spotify, people want to see it. They want to interact with it. They're putting on YouTube inside of the home or inside of their car and listening to it, watching a little bit, and people shouldn't while they're driving, but it's there. They're putting it up on the window. People want to get to know the personalities that are a part of these podcasts, and thus the YouTube side is becoming more and more prevalent when it comes to the world. It used to just be get a mic, put your audio out there, but it is not that way anymore.
I saw too that like Tonight shows are dying now because like it's like you see like a celebrity that you want to see and it's like a 10-minute interview with them. It doesn't feel organic, doesn't feel real. But then when you see them in a podcast for an hour long and it just chatting about food or something random, you just actually get to know the person. Whereas it just feels more like a stunt for whatever movie they're playing, whatever song they're about to release. So I just seen, like a big shift right now in podcasting for celebrities where people would rather see the celebrity just as their normal person instead of them on a show that seems a little scripted with a lot of the Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel type shows.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that is definitely what is happening right now. I'm going to go up here. I want to look at the numbers here for everybody. I want you to, here numbers to all the signs about podcasts. The number of podcasts that are being created. 2020, a little over 1 million podcasts in 2020. In 2021, 740,000. 2022, 245,000. 2023, 220. 2024, 184. 2025, 168,000.
Oh, wow.
So we've gone from over 1 million. We've had about a 90% drop, 80% drop in the number of new podcasts that are being created from 2020 to 2025. And that number is continuing to go down. While it has stabilized a certain level, we could be at 150,000, 140,000 by the end of 2026, but yet more people are craving the content than ever before. So we have this dichotomy right now and an opportunity right now for people who, if you can get out there and create on a consistent basis, people will consume your content now more than ever because there is less competition than ever before online for the attention. And it all started with COVID. Everybody thought it was going to be easy to create a podcast. You were sitting in your house, you had nothing else to do. So, hey, I'm going to create a podcast, and it makes sense to be able to do that. But as you get back out into the world, it is surely not happening that way. And YouTube is just becoming more and more popular. More women are turning into YouTube than ever before. And that, in my opinion, is what is making this a huge shift. Can you look that up?
Yeah.
What is it? Like, let's just say if we rewound right now, Anthony, I don't know. Let's go back a couple of years. Like, let's go back, I don't know, 2020 versus 2025, right? Percent of male versus female audience who watches YouTube. I don't know, something like that. I'm going to guess there's been about a 10% shift. I'm throwing it out there, 10% right now. We don't know the answer to this. I could be wrong. It used to skew heavily male for YouTube.
It's about this. So 56% in 2020 for male, and then 44 for female. And then 2025 is 53, and then 47.
Okay.
So it's about 50.
So only about a 3% deal. So let's look at the search though and change it over to for watching podcast. So like specifically for podcast viewership. How the numbers look there. That'd be what I'm very interested in, is understanding that.
Used to be 56.
Yeah.
2020 for male, and then 51.
So
2025.
So 56 in 2021, and now you're saying 51. So a 5% difference right now in male versus female between 2021 and 2025. This, in my opinion, that's a big difference. When you're talking about hundreds of millions of views, that means there are more women than ever that are watching this right now. And I bet that number is going to exponentially go up from there.
Oh, yeah.
So there definitely is a shift right now in how people are consuming content. And there's an opportunity for people who want to take advantage of it, because podcasting is more popular than ever to consume and less popular than ever to create. It makes a huge market gap right now and a big opportunity for people that want to continue to create something that's actually special right there. Love it. All right, let's move on here. We're moving on to our next story in the list. And this one's an interesting one, because we were just talking about podcast. I got to weigh in a little bit on this one right here. this whole entire thing with Call Her Daddy, Alex Cooper and Alix Earle, what exactly is going on with this one? If you've been watching lately, like I do Barstool Sports with Dave Portnoy, this has been a really like dramatic little thing over the last 48 hours. I don't really know much about it. I like watching the clips from Call Her Daddy. I think Alex Cooper does a pretty good job on there, bringing on some guests and asking some weird questions. But let's just break down a little bit of the timeline if you're not familiar with this story. First of all, Call Her Daddy, if you can look it up, how popular is Call Her Daddy, the podcast? I mean, are we talking like top 10 in the world? It's a show where they basically talk about things that might be a little taboo, like dating or sex, and they ask crazy questions and have guests on there that talk about, I don't know, previous partners. What is it?
One of the top 10.
Top 10?
5 million listeners per episode.
Holy crap. Yeah. Call Her Daddy has 5 million listeners an episode. Folks, put that into perspective, all right? Okay, let's put that into perspective. That's double what watches the Stanley Cup Finals in the NHL this year for one episode of Call Her Daddy. So this is a very popular show, very influential in culture. And I want to take you through just a quick timeline that we were able to see right here. Started back in 2018, Alex Cooper starts a podcast called Call Her Daddy under the Barstool Sports, led by Dave Portnoy. The show explodes in popularity. Everybody remembers when it first jumped onto the scene, especially for young women. It was like the first show, in my opinion, that gave like some credence to, I don't know, some openness among young women about maybe sexuality and stuff that they were doing out there and dating. And it felt like it gave people permission to maybe even more be themselves in the beginning. Then they began to bring on celebrities who would tell funny stories, and it humanized people in a real way. People shouldn't just look at this as like a one-time phenomenon. This has been going on for many years, and that show has risen to the very top as it is right now. The show exploded, like I said, in 2021. Cooper signed a massive deal with Spotify worth tens of millions of dollars. The move turned the podcast from just a podcast into just an explosion. She became a media executive, and she later launched her own podcast network called Unwell. All right, so let's fast forward to 2023. Influencer Alix Earle joined Cooper's network with her own podcast, Hot Mess. The partnership was seen as a big deal because she had massive success on social media reach. But behind the scenes, there was a lot of tension, and things didn't go well as it continued. Started off strong, then it fell off. They had a fallout in 2024, 2025. Reports began circulating that the show that Earle was a part of had underperforming expectations. There were disagreements about contracts and creative control, and the relationship between the two women had suffered and fallen apart quickly. Eventually, that podcast that she had was dropped from the Unwell network, and then the public drama started. All right, this is just this year right here. Public shots have been taken. Recently, Alex Cooper publicly accused Earle of posting passive-aggressive content and fueling rumors without telling the full story. Fans, of course, have picked both sides of this, and even Dave Portnoy also commented publicly suggesting the conflict likely centered on business terms and expectations, not their personal friendship. I want to talk about this. Like, people are like, well, why are we talking about Call Her Daddy and some drama between two girls? Because it's piggybacking off what we just talked about. The fact is that right now, this is not just an influencer gossip story that we have. It shows that podcasting is actually big business. It used to be that on-network personalities, if they had a feud, think about the Tonight Show that you mentioned earlier. If, a Letterman and Leno were to have had a feud 20 years ago, that would have been something that makes the front page. Now what we're seeing is because of the influence and 5 million views an episode for Call Her Daddy, what you're seeing is that these feuds are really where the drama is and where people are paying attention right now. And that these partnerships that some of these people are able to form are very powerful, and they should be paid attention to. I mean, just last week we did the story about iShowSpeed. He's going to be part of a huge Twitch and streamer guy. He's going to be part of WrestleMania. Huge opportunity there for them to gain an audience right there. But this just speaks even more to that the stories that are making the front page of culture right now aren't with television or reality television shows like that. They're with people like this who are on camera that are actually reporting the news at times, whether you think it's legit or not. But the people that are telling a story out there every single day and being on camera are the ones that people are paying attention to. We have, again, a lot of people who consume content and not a lot of people that are creating it right now. All right. So it used to be when this thing started, I'll tell you, Anthony, I remember I kind of started doing my show I was doing the radio in 2020. And I thought podcasting at the time, I was like, I'll just do it. I'll set up a little phone camera inside of the studio. Florida Man Radio. I was doing Saturday afternoon radio. And I don't know, I'll just take that and I'll post it out to YouTube or I'll do something with it. I didn't really think it was going to ever be anything. I don't think that people understood at the time how popular podcasting was going to be or how long it was even going to last for. Because really the only person at that time that had done it right was Joe Rogan. And everybody just knew that as being the thing. You can make an argument that his influence has definitely fallen, but not because the guy doesn't put on a great show, but rather because there's so much competition right now for attention. It's impossible for him to have the same influence when so many others are vying for that right now, right? Yeah. So I think this speaks to a much bigger issue. I don't really have a horse in this race. I don't know enough about it in general. What I can say is that I have a lot of respect for what Alex Cooper has been able to put together with Call Her Daddy. You know, when you come out with a show like that, you have to take a lot of heat, all right? They get accusations thrown around that you're a slut, you know, you're the demise of culture is what you are. And yet that person sticks in there and says, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and create a show that I think is going to bring value to my listeners. And I don't care what somebody else thinks. And I believe that people don't give that enough credit in hindsight. Always easy to say, well, look at her now with 5 million views. Yeah, but imagine that first episode when nobody was watching, to take a chance on yourself with a show that was risque at the time, and even today is risque, and to say, I'm going to take a chance on me and what I believe in. To me, that should be looked at and rewarded, and I'm glad that she has been.
I remember, what was it, like 5 years ago, when she first started, and my fiance put it on, and I was like, Call Her Daddy. I was like, what is this? And now it's just crazy how much is blown up, and I'm proud. That's awesome that she's keeping going, and she's like number one. That's crazy.
I mean, like, she's the thing. And of course, I mean, I don't remember all the details, and I don't pretend to know it if somebody watches this, the drama with Barstool Sports and how that worked and the breakup there and how that whole thing went down. You can also say, you can simultaneously say, I don't care how it went down. The woman has built something that is special and has influence. I mean, it was Kamala Harris from the last election that went on her show. Now, given she should have done Joe Rogan, okay, don't get me wrong, but she went on her show because she knows the influence that woman has over young women. And I'm not going to lie, every now and then pops up in my feed, there'll be a short from the show, and they are interesting. And some of the questions that she asked of people, I think that she makes some celebrities feel comfortable enough to answer questions that maybe they wouldn't answer on a Tonight Show, or they wouldn't answer in a normal interview with E! Entertainment or TMZ, because I think she does a very good job of interviewing.
And she asks some like pretty hard questions too, and she's not afraid to say like, "Hey, this is what'd you do for this, or why'd you do this?" So
yeah, I really have a lot of respect for that, and especially during a time where I don't think people understand how difficult it is to create a show like that. That consistently is good. And as an interviewer, you don't lose sight of who you are. You don't lose sight of your show's direction. You don't lose sight of the value that you bring to your guest and to your viewers, right? And she hasn't done that. So I have all the respect in the world for the show itself. And I wish her all the continued success. And whatever this is right here, in my opinion, only speaks to a broader issue, or a broader what you might say, that only speaks to a broader pattern of just how popular some of these people who podcast are today that are not named Joe Rogan. Our final story of the day, because then I got to get back to work here, everybody, is a midlife crisis. People are going to think, well, Pat, what are you doing this story for? Yeah, probably. There's probably some truth in this one right here, but we're talking about midlife crisis. A new study is showing that most people think a midlife crisis is because you're basically coming to this point where you realize that your life is halfway over and that, okay, you try to have a crisis about that. But that is not the case, okay? They imagine someone turning 45, realizing they're getting older, panicking about death. But a new study shows that it's all about purpose, and that many people who bring themselves into their mid-40s are starting to ask questions not about death, but about the purpose of their life. Did I build something that I wanted? Did I use my talents that I was given? Did I waste my best years? And now those years are behind me. And that in of itself, not the fear of death, but rather maybe the lack of what they've accomplished in their life or wasted potential, is what is actually causing many men and women to feel burnout and anxiety as they enter into their 40s. Financial pressure, family responsibilities tacked onto that, along with a personal feeling of feeling as though potential was not reached. And this story really stuck out to me because I do believe there is some truth to this. I believe that a lot of people today are not looking at their life and going, man, I'm afraid I'm going to die. But they're afraid of what they're going to do with the rest of the years that they live. They're afraid of losing and not accomplishing something for the rest of the time that they're on this earth. And for many, I think they look at the first 40 years of their life and they go, I have felt so lost for this first 40. What am I going to do with the remainder of my time that's going to bring meaning into my life? And by not knowing that and not understanding it, it gives such a feeling of anxiety because you want your life to be meaningful. And I think men are searching for that right now, as at the same time, they feel disconnected from the world because of AI and because of social media, not connecting us, but driving us further apart. And we see this idea now of people who, men and women, who are looking at their life and saying, man, what am I going to do that's actually going to be meaningful to me? I heard this the other day, and somebody I can't remember who it was talking about going to a funeral, and they saw all these people at a funeral, and then they asked themselves if they thought anybody would show up to mine. And I thought to myself, I was like, you know, Anthony, I've made so many damn mistakes in my life that I don't think anyone would show up to my funeral.
And I'll show up.
I appreciate that. Besides my mother, maybe, you know, and some family like that. My mother. Sometimes one of the hardest things you can do in life, whether it's a midlife crisis or it's not, is to look at yourself and you realize just how much your mistakes have costed you in life. And I fall into this category very, very much, that I don't look at the rest of the time that I have left and go, man, I'm 40 years old almost. I'll be 40 this year. And what does that mean? I look at it and I go, the mistakes I've made that have been completely preventable have costed me so much. I look at the pain that I've caused other people personally in my life. And it's very hard sometimes to look in the mirror. And I think that a lot of people feel that way. I don't have a solution to that. And I only have a limited time because we got to get going here back to work. But I do believe that for me, I hope that I can live in some way for the next 40 years in a way that people would look at my funeral and say, I want to go to that and I want to pay my respects to somebody that was a good guy. Yeah. I'm not sure that's the case right now, but I hope that it will be. I think that's a good hope to have.
I want to kind of go off of that too. Like, I think you're a great person. You do great for everyone that, like, I'm on the phone with you. Hear you all the time, like 24/7. And you're just a great dude, just always trying to do right for the customer and everything, and just all the new people we have on. So I think everyone respects you, and it's going to be great. And honestly, too, I think life is short. Everyone makes mistakes, and honestly, I think you just got to look at just the positive things in life and just see, like, this is what I've done. This is, like, just short things that just make it just amazing. And you know what life is. Yeah. Life will give you lemons, but sometimes it's got to make lemonade out of lemons.
Then throw some vodka in there.
Yeah.
Folks, I got to get back to work here. Thanks very much for joining the Patrick Carr Show. Thank you always for Anthony for the great comments and the great stories behind the scenes. We'll see you all next time. All right. Thanks, everybody.